My brothers and sisters, be honest with me for one moment, just one moment. You are not the same person you were before. Something inside you has changed. And the most painful part is not the change itself. The most painful part is that you have been trying to go back. Back to who you were. Back to how things felt. Back to when your heart was lighter and your faith felt closer and life made more sense. You have been trying to go back and you can't. And you don't understand why. So you blame yourself. You think something is broken in you. You think you have lost something that everyone else still has. You sit in rooms full of people and smile and nod, and inside you are completely, utterly alone with this feeling that has no name. Not sadness, not doubt, not weakness. Something deeper than all of those. Something that started quietly and slowly took over until one day you looked in the mirror and thought, where did I go? My brothers and sisters, I need you to hear what I am about to say. Not with your ears, with whatever is left of the part of you that is still listening. You have not lost yourself. You are not broken. You are not being punished. And you are not supposed to go back. Because what is happening inside you right now is not the end of something. It is the beginning of something you do not have words for yet. And tonight, I am going to give you those words. So stay with me. There's a feeling you've been carrying. It's not quite sadness. It's not quite anger. It's not even loneliness. It's not exactly. It's something harder to name than all of those. It's like waking up one day and not recognizing yourself. Not your face in the mirror, something underneath that. Like looking at the life you've built, the relationships you have, the version of yourself you've been performing for everyone, and feeling like none of it fits anymore. Not wrong, like broken. Wrong, like outgrown. Like wearing a coat that used to be yours, but now the sleeves are too short and the shoulders are too tight, and you can't figure out when you outgrew it because you didn't notice it happening. You used to care about things you don't care about anymore. People you used to love being around, you find yourself wanting distance from. Not because you hate them, not because anything happened, just something inside you doesn't fit there anymore. And that is confusing because no one warned you this could happen. No one sat you down and said, one day you will grow beyond a version of yourself and it will feel like loss. So you wake up one morning and the things that used to excite you feel hollow. The conversations that used to feel meaningful feel surface level. The goals that used to drive you now feel like they belong to someone else. And you don't know what to do with that. Because from the outside, your life looks exactly the same. But from the inside, you are living in a completely different country. And nobody around you can see this. That's the strangest part, isn't it? You're surrounded by people, family, friends, people who know your name and your history. And yet you feel completely, utterly alone in what you're experiencing. Because how do you explain it? How do you sit someone down and say, I feel like I'm becoming someone different. I feel like I'm shedding something. I feel like parts of me are dissolving and I don't know if that's okay. How do you say that without them immediately trying to fix it? When deep down something in you knows it is not meant to be fixed. So you carry it quietly. You answer, I'm fine when people ask. You show up. You smile when it's required. You perform the function of who you're supposed to be. And then at night, in the quiet, you sit alone with this thing. This unnamed, unspoken, deeply personal thing. And you wonder, what is happening to me? I want to tell you something, and I need you to really hear this. What is happening to you has a name. What you are going through is not a malfunction. It is not depression pretending to be something deeper. It is not weakness dressed up as introspection. It is not you falling apart. It is you being rebuilt. And rebuilding from the inside is the loudest silence a person can experience. There is a word in the Arabic language, and I want you to sit with its meaning tonight. The word is takhliya. It means emptying, clearing out. Before a space can be filled with something greater, it must first be emptied of everything that occupied it before. And the process of emptying feels like loss. It feels like absence. It feels like something is wrong. It feels like you are disappearing. But you are not disappearing. You are making room. Think about that feeling you've had, where things you used to want don't appeal to you anymore. Goals that used to drive you now feel flat. Social circles that used to energize you now drain you. Habits you used to enjoy now feel empty. You thought it meant something was wrong with you. What if it means something is right? What if the reason those things don't satisfy you anymore is because you have been quietly, invisibly, without fanfare or announcement, elevated past them? What if you've grown beyond them without realizing you were growing? We talk about growth like it's always visible. We talk about it like it's a graph going upward. We expect growth to feel like progress. We expect it to feel good. But most of the real, deep, soul level growth feels like loss. It feels like the rug being pulled. It feels like disorientation. It feels like standing in a room you used to know and suddenly nothing looks familiar. And that is terrifying unless someone tells you the truth. The truth is this: Allah does not reshape a person without first unsettling them. He does not pour new understanding into a heart that is still too full of the old. He does not elevate a soul that is still comfortable at the level it is sitting at. So sometimes out of mercy, He creates discomfort. Not to punish, not because He is angry, but because He loves you enough to refuse to leave you where you are. Let me say that again. He loves you enough to refuse to leave you where you are. Think about the people in your life who truly love you. Not the ones who just want you to be happy right now in this moment. The ones who want what is genuinely best for you. Those people, the real ones, sometimes say the hard thing. Sometimes they don't let you stay comfortable. Sometimes their love looks like challenge. Now imagine that same principle, but from the creator of your soul. From the one who knows every corner of you, every memory you've buried, every wound you've never spoken about, every version of yourself you tried to be and quietly gave up on. He sees all of it. He sees it and He is not turning away. He is not disappointed. He is not walking off. He is not giving up. He is right now, tonight, in the middle of all of this, working on you. I know that might be hard to feel. When you're in pain, being told this is part of a plan can sound hollow, like something people say to make hard things easier. But I'm not saying it to make it easier. I'm saying it because it is the most accurate description of what is actually happening. I want to stop here for a moment and talk to you about something that I know a lot of you have experienced, but almost nobody admits to out loud. There is a moment in Salah that nobody talks about. You're standing there, hands folded, lips moving, and you feel absolutely nothing. Not guilt, not peace, not connection, not even distance, just nothing. Like you are reading words off a wall in a language you once understood but now can barely feel. And that nothing, that specific terrifying silence inside your salah scares you more than any mistake you have ever made. Because at least guilt means something is still alive in there. But nothing feels like the lights went out somewhere deep inside you and you cannot find the switch. So you fold your prayer mat and you go back to your life and you tell no one. Because how do you tell someone you love that you stood in front of your Lord and felt like you were standing in an empty room? How do you say that without them looking at you like you are losing your faith? So you keep it to yourself. And every time you pray and feel nothing, the guilt gets a little heavier and the distance feels a little wider. My brothers and sisters, I need to say something very important here. That emptiness you feel in salah is not proof that you have moved away from Allah. It is proof that you care deeply enough to notice the difference between real connection and going through the motions. A person who has truly lost interest in their Lord does not feel pain when salah feels empty. They just stop praying. You are still there, hands folded, lips moving, showing up even when it hurts to show up. That is not abandonment. That is faithfulness in its most honest, most human form. The scholars of the heart said something that changed the way I see this. They said, a dry prayer that you show up for anyway is sometimes more beloved to Allah than a prayer full of emotion that costs you nothing. Because showing up when it is hard is where sincerity actually lives. You are showing up. Even in the emptiness, that matters more than you know. Let's talk about isolation. Because I know that is something you've been feeling. Not just physical isolation, though maybe that too, but a deeper kind. The kind where you're in a room full of people and you feel like you're behind glass. Present but separated. Watching everyone laugh and talk and move through their normal lives and feeling like you're on the outside of something, but you don't even know what you're outside of. That feeling of not belonging, even in places you used to belong, is one of the most disorienting experiences a human being can go through. And nobody talks about it enough, because when you try to describe it, it sounds like arrogance, like you think you're better than everyone. But that is not what it is at all. It's not that you think you're above people. It's that something inside you has shifted and the old frequencies don't resonate the same way anymore. Like a radio that has been retuned. The stations that used to come in clearly now sound like static. And you're not sure which station you're supposed to be on. Can I tell you something that might bring you some relief? That feeling of not fitting is not permanent homelessness. It is transition. You are in the in-between, the space between who you were and who you are becoming. And that space, that in-between, is one of the loneliest places a person can live. But it is also one of the most sacred. In Islamic spirituality, the scholars of the heart have always spoken about this place. They called it the place of qurb, of nearness. The closer you get to something real, the further you feel from what was false. And false things, even comfortable ones, will start to feel uncomfortable when your heart begins to wake up. Your heart is waking up. That heaviness you feel, that is not the weight of something dying inside you. That is the weight of something being born. And birth, real birth, is painful. It's disorienting. It's loud in its silence. But what comes out of it is life. I want to talk to you now about comparison, because I think it has been quietly destroying something in you. You pick up your phone and you see people your age doing things, achieving things, looking certain, looking happy, looking like they have figured out something you haven't. And something tightens in your chest. Not quite jealousy, something more painful than jealousy. Something that sounds like, what is wrong with me? Why do they seem to know who they are and where they are going? And I am here, sitting in my own confusion, feeling like I am behind in a race I did not even choose to enter. And the comparison doesn't stop at other people's achievements. It goes deeper. You compare your current self to your past self. You look back at who you were 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and you think, I used to be better than this. I used to have more energy, more faith, more certainty, more drive. And now I am here, tired, uncertain, questioning things I never used to question. And you feel like you are regressing, like everyone else is moving forward and you are somehow moving sideways or backwards or just standing completely still while the world keeps going. My brothers and sisters, I need you to hear this very carefully. Comparison is a thief, and it steals specifically from the people who are growing the most. Because growth that is real, growth that is happening at the level of the soul, does not look like progress from the outside. It does not look like achievements and milestones and things you can post about. It looks like quiet. It looks like confusion. It looks like pulling back from things that used to fill you up. And from the outside, that looks like nothing is happening. But from Allah's perspective, everything is happening. The person on your screen who looks like they have it all together, you do not know what their 2 a.m. looks like. You do not know what they carry in the silence when the performance is over. You are only seeing the chapter they chose to show you. And you are comparing their highlight to your entire unedited story. That is not a fair comparison. That is a designed cruelty that you are inflicting on yourself. Stop. Look at your own story, not someone else's. Your story is the only story Allah is writing for you. And He is writing it with more care, more precision, more love than you can currently see. Let me speak to something specific now. Something I think you've been quietly dealing with for longer than you'd admit. There's been a version of yourself that you used to know. Maybe it was a younger version. Maybe it was you before something happened, before some relationship ended, or some dream broke, or some circumstance quietly changed the shape of your days. And somewhere along the way, you lost that version, or you think you lost it. You look back and you miss it. Not just the circumstances, but the feeling of that person, the lightness, the certainty, the sense of moving forward. And now you're not sure who you are without all of that. I need to say something carefully here. That version of you that you're grieving, it was real, it was valid, it deserved to exist. But it was not your final version. It was not the destination. It was a chapter. And chapters end, not because they were bad, but because the story has somewhere else to go. You are not the person you were 2 years ago. And that is not a tragedy. That is the most quietly profound thing about being human. We are not static. We are not meant to stay the same. We are meant to grow, to shed, to expand, to become. And sometimes the becoming hurts, because becoming means leaving. And leaving, even leaving what was limiting you, feels like loss. Think about the things you've lost recently. Not just material things. Maybe a friendship that faded. Maybe a version of yourself that felt confident. Maybe a certainty about your path that has been replaced by fog. Now ask yourself honestly, were those things keeping you close to something real? Or were they keeping you comfortable in something small? I'm not saying the loss doesn't hurt. I'm not giving you cheap gratitude advice. I'm saying, what if those things had to go precisely because you were needed elsewhere? What if the friendship that faded was taking up space that something deeper needed to occupy? What if the certainty that crumbled was a false certainty, the kind that feels like faith but is actually just comfort? What if the old version of you had to quietly step aside for a version of you that Allah has been designing all along? I want to talk to you now about the dreams you've buried. Not the sleeping kind, the other kind, the ones you had for your life. The things you used to want so deeply that just thinking about them made your chest feel full. Maybe it was a goal you worked toward for years and it didn't happen the way you planned. Maybe it was a relationship you believed in completely and it broke in ways that didn't make sense. Maybe it was a version of your future that you had pictured so clearly, and then one day the picture just didn't match the reality anymore. And you grieved it. Quietly, without ceremony, without anyone really understanding what you lost. Because how do you mourn a future that never existed? How do you hold a funeral for something that only lived in your heart? So you packed it away. You told yourself, it's fine, I'm fine. Things don't always work out the way you plan. Move on. But it wasn't fine. And part of you hasn't moved on. Part of you is still sitting with that broken thing in a quiet corner of yourself that you don't let people into. My brothers and sisters, Allah knows about that room. He knows about the dream you buried. He knows what it cost you. And I want to tell you something about the dreams that get buried. Sometimes a dream has to die before it can be resurrected into something greater. Sometimes what we ask for is good, but what Allah has planned is better. And the only way to receive what is better is to let go of what is good. The letting go is not failure. The letting go is not proof that you were wrong to want it. The letting go is the act of trust that opens the door to something you could not have reached while holding the old thing. When you finally open your hands and release the dream that broke, you will find that your hands were needed to hold something else entirely. Something you couldn't have imagined from where you were standing. Trust the space between what you lost and what is coming. That space is not emptiness. That space is preparation. I want to talk to you about pain now. Not the loud kind, not the kind that breaks you visibly. The quiet kind, the kind you feel when you're doing dishes or lying in bed at night or looking out of a window at nothing in particular. That quiet, aching, hard to name kind. That pain has something inside it. It is not just suffering. It is not just random discomfort. There is something in that quiet pain that is uniquely, powerfully yours. Because that pain has been stripping things from you. Slowly, quietly, without asking permission. And everything it has stripped away was not you. It was what was on top of you. Think about it. When the things you thought defined you start falling away, the roles, the certainties, the relationships, the ambitions, the what's left, what is underneath all of that, that is the question your pain is asking you to answer. Not to destroy you, to reveal you. Allah says, and I want you to sit with this. He says, He is As-Sami, the all-hearing. Not simply the one who hears when you speak out loud. As-Sami, the one who hears the things you haven't said, the things you haven't put into words yet, the ache that doesn't have a sentence, the prayer you want to make but don't know how, the cry that gets stuck somewhere between your chest and your throat. He hears that. He hears the silence that is full of feeling. He hears the prayer that is just a heart breaking open. You are not unseen. You only feel unseen because the seeing that matters is invisible to you right now. But that does not mean it isn't happening. I want to talk to you now about something that is rarely discussed honestly. The prayers that haven't been answered. The du'as you made. Maybe you made them once, quietly, just hoping. Maybe you made them 100 times, with your hands raised and your eyes wet, with every piece of sincerity you had. Maybe you made them at Fajr, at Tahajjud, at the moment before Iftar, at the moments when people say dua is most accepted, and nothing came. Or at least, nothing that looked like what you asked for. And that did something to you. Not just disappointment, something deeper. A quiet, creeping question that you are almost afraid to finish. If He hears me, why hasn't He answered? If He loves me, why does it feel like my prayers go nowhere? If I am trying, why does it feel like trying isn't enough? My brothers and sisters, I want to address this with complete honesty. Because this question deserves a real answer, not a religious performance of an answer. The Prophet, peace be upon him, told us that there is not a single Muslim who makes dua, not a single one, without one of three things happening. Either Allah gives them what they asked for, or He replaces it with something better that they cannot yet see, or He stores it for them as goodness on a day when they will need it most. Every single dua is received. Every single one is acted upon. But the response does not always look like the request. And this is where trust becomes something more than a feeling. Trust is what you hold on to when the answer looks different from the question. When you asked for the door to open and instead a wall was built, and you couldn't see at the time that the wall was protecting you from something on the other side. When you asked for the relationship to continue and instead it ended, and you couldn't see at the time that the ending was the beginning of finding yourself. When you asked for the pain to stop and instead you were given strength you didn't know you had. There is a concept in our tradition called khair, goodness. And the scholars say that sometimes what we ask for and what is good for us are two completely different things. And Allah, who loves you more than you love yourself, always chooses what is good for you. Even when it doesn't feel good, even when it feels like the opposite of good, the du'as you made were not wasted. Not a single word of them. They are stored, they are working, they are moving things in your life that you cannot see from where you are standing. Keep making them, even when it feels like speaking into silence. Because the silence on your end does not mean silence on His. I want to tell you something about the people who have been through what you're going through. Not the ones who figured it out quickly. Not the ones who had some dramatic moment of clarity. The ones who sat in the dark for a long time, who didn't understand what was happening to them, who felt lost and confused and emptied out. And then, not suddenly, but gradually, like light coming in through the edges of a closed door, began to understand. Those people all say the same thing when they look back. They say, I wouldn't undo any of it. Not because the pain was pleasant, but because of who it made them. Because of the closeness to their Lord that emerged from the wreckage. Because of the depth of feeling that the shallow version of their life never could have contained. You are building depth right now. Even if it doesn't feel like building, even if it feels like the exact opposite, let me speak to you about something that might be very relevant. You've probably noticed that your relationship with certain things has changed. Maybe your relationship with dunya, with worldly pursuits, things that used to feel urgent don't feel that important anymore. Maybe your relationship with people has changed. You find yourself wanting less noise, fewer distractions, more quiet. Maybe your relationship with yourself has changed. You're harder to satisfy. You don't accept certain things you used to accept without question. You hold yourself to something, even if you can't quite name what it is. These are not signs of depression. These are signs of a conscience that is waking up. A fitra, the innate, God-given nature inside every human being that is rubbing its eyes and starting to see more clearly. When the fitra wakes up, things look different. Suddenly the things everyone around you is chasing look hollow. Suddenly conversations about surface level things feel painful to sit through. Suddenly you want something. You don't know exactly what, but something more real. Something that actually matters. That wanting, that ache for something real. That is one of the most precious states a human heart can be in. It means you haven't settled. It means the real you, the soul underneath all the layers is reaching for something. And what it is reaching for is its Lord. You might not have framed it that way. You might not be the kind of person who talks about their faith openly. You might be somewhere in between, believing but barely, reaching but not sure what you're reaching toward. That's okay. That is okay. Because He already knows where you are. And He is not requiring you to have it all figured out before He pays attention to you. He is paying attention to you precisely in the middle of the figuring out. There's something one of the companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, once said to him. He said, when I am with you, I feel like I see everything clearly. When I go back to my daily life, that clarity fades. He thought something was wrong with him. He thought he was being a hypocrite. And the Prophet, peace be upon him, said gently, if you were always in the state you are when you are with me, the angels would come and shake your hand on the road. Then he said, but you have your hours and your hours. You have your hours and your hours. There will be times when the fog lifts and you feel connected. And there will be times when the fog descends and you feel alone. Both of those times belong to you. Both of them are part of the path. Neither of them means you have failed. I want to say something now about identity, because I think this is at the core of what you are experiencing. You don't know who you are anymore. Or rather, you know who you used to be, and that person doesn't quite fit anymore, but you don't have a clear picture of who you are becoming. So you're in this uncomfortable middle ground, not quite there, not quite here, somewhere that doesn't have a name yet. And identity without a name is one of the hardest things a person can navigate, because we are creatures of narrative. We need a story to tell about ourselves. We need to be able to answer the question, who are you, with something that feels true. And right now, your old answer doesn't feel true anymore, and your new answer hasn't formed yet. So let me offer you something. In the absence of a clear new identity, let me offer you one anchor. One thing that is always true, regardless of where you are in the process. You are a soul that was created by the most merciful, not accidentally, not as an afterthought, with intention, with purpose, with knowledge of every chapter of your life, including this one. That is your most fundamental identity. Everything else is a layer on top of that. The roles you play, the goals you chase, the version of yourself you're working on, all of those are layers. But the core is a soul that belongs to Allah. And that identity never becomes outdated. That identity is never in crisis. That identity holds even when everything on top of it is shifting. I want to sit with you for a moment in the feeling of not being understood, because I know you've felt that. You've tried to articulate what's happening inside you to someone, maybe a parent, maybe a friend, maybe someone you love deeply, and they looked at you with concern but not comprehension. They tried to help, they gave advice, they told you to stay positive or keep going or you'll be fine, and you nodded. And inside, you felt more alone than before you started talking. There is a particular loneliness in being misunderstood by someone who loves you. It doesn't mean they don't care. It means they can't see what you see. Not because they're not trying, but because they are not standing where you're standing. But here is the thing. The one who made you, made every corner of you, every thought you've ever had, every feeling you've ever suppressed, he is not in the position of trying to understand. He already understands. He doesn't need you to explain it. He doesn't need you to find the words. He was there when the feeling formed. He was there before you were aware of it. He has never, not for a single breath, been confused about you. Al-Khabir, the all-aware. He is aware of the texture of what you're going through, the specific color of your pain, the precise weight of what you're carrying. Not approximately, exactly. And he has not left you there. He is not observing from a distance, watching to see how you cope. He is present. He is involved. He is right now, tonight, engaged with your life. I want to talk about dua for a moment. Not the formal, structured kind. The other kind. The kind where you sit somewhere alone and you don't know what to say and you just hold your hands up. Or you just sit there. Or you just breathe. Or you just say, Ya Allah, and that's it. That's the whole prayer. Just His name called out from a heavy chest. That is enough. That is one of the most powerful forms of prayer that exists. Because in that moment, in the raw, unpolished, wordless reaching, you have dropped every pretense. You are not performing for anyone. You are not trying to say the right thing. You are just a soul calling for its Lord. And that call, even when it comes out as silence, is heard. Completely, fully, immediately. You know what I find beautiful? The fact that you're still here, still seeking, still listening, still asking questions, still sitting in the dark and trying to make sense of things. A person who has truly given up doesn't do that. The fact that you're here right now, wondering and hoping and reaching, tells me everything I need to know. You haven't given up on meaning. You haven't surrendered to numbness. Somewhere inside you, there is still a light that wants to be near something real. Don't let anyone, including yourself, tell you that light is small. There is something I want to address now, because I think it is something you might be quietly suffering from. And that is the guilt. The guilt of feeling disconnected. The guilt of not feeling the way you think you should feel. The guilt of going through the motions of faith without feeling the presence behind them. The guilt of missing your prayers or rushing through them or standing there and feeling nothing. I need to speak to this directly. That guilt is not evidence that you are far from Allah. That guilt is evidence that you care. A person who is truly disconnected from their Lord doesn't feel guilty about the disconnection. They don't notice, they don't care. The fact that the distance bothers you, the fact that the hollowness of the motion pains you, means the relationship still matters to you. It means you haven't stopped wanting it. The scholars say something profound. They say the feeling of distance from Allah is itself a sign that Allah has not abandoned the heart. Because a heart that is truly abandoned doesn't know the difference between presence and absence. Your heart knows. Your heart recognizes the difference. It feels the absence because it knows what presence feels like. And that is a form of grace. I want to speak now about shame, because I think shame might be sitting underneath a lot of what you're carrying. Shame is different from guilt. Guilt says, I did something wrong. Shame says, I am something wrong. And shame is one of the heaviest things a human being can carry, because it attacks not what you did, but who you are. Maybe you've made mistakes you haven't told anyone about. Maybe you've fallen into patterns you're not proud of and then climbed out and fallen back in and climbed out again, and you've lost count of how many times the cycle has repeated. Maybe you've said things or done things or gone to places that contradict the version of yourself you want to be. And the shame of that, the quiet, constant weight of that makes you feel like you don't deserve to be close to Allah. Like the distance between you and Him is something you earned, like you disqualified yourself. My brothers and sisters, this is where I need you to hear something that is not just comforting, but true. Shame is not from Allah. Shame is what shaitan uses to keep you from turning back. Because he knows that if you turn back, everything changes. So he uses your past against you. He holds your mistakes up in front of you and says, look at what you've done. Look at how many times you've done it. Do you really think you belong in the presence of the one you've been running from? And you believe him. Because shame is convincing. But here is the truth. Allah does not look at your past the way you do. When you turn to Him, truly turn with whatever you have, in whatever broken state you're in, He does not see someone who failed. He sees someone coming home. And the Prophet, peace be upon him, told us that when a believer repents, truly repents, Allah does not just forgive the sin, He replaces it. He replaces it with something good. That is not just mercy, that is generosity beyond what we deserve, beyond what we could ever deserve. You're not disqualified. You are not too far gone. You have not used up your chances. The door is not just still open. He is standing at the door, waiting for you to walk through it. Let me talk about the people around you for a moment. Because I know relationships have been complicated lately. Maybe someone let you down. Maybe a relationship ended. Maybe someone who should have been there wasn't. And the wound of that doesn't just hurt in the moment. It rewrites something. It changes how you see things. It makes you more guarded, more careful, less likely to open yourself up. And sometimes that guarding gets mistaken for coldness by others, by yourself. You tell yourself you've become cynical, closed, damaged. But what if the walls you've built are not permanent? What if they are just healing tissue over a wound that needs time? What if the distance you've created from people is not disconnection, but discernment? The ability to recognize who is safe, who is real, who is worth the vulnerability. Heartbreak in any form has a way of teaching the heart its own value. When something is broken, the cracks show you where the weakness was. And you can choose to leave it cracked, or you can let something stronger fill those cracks. In Japanese art, there is a practice called kintsugi, the art of repairing broken pottery with gold. The repaired piece is more beautiful than the original. The fractures are not hidden, they are highlighted. They say, this thing was broken, and it was put back together with something precious. You are being put back together with something precious. Even if it doesn't feel like gold right now, even if it feels like just being held in pieces, the gold is coming. Can I talk to you about the night? The night specifically, because I have a feeling that's when things are most acute for you. There is a reason the night is different. During the day there is noise, things to do, people to talk to, tasks to complete. The noise fills in the gaps and you can manage. But at night, when everything quiets down, the questions get louder. The feelings surface. The things you were too busy to look at during the